Saniglo, it's really and truly clean. Cheerful, too. So join the ranks of happy homemakers with Saniglo.
A twinge of Cook's elbow halts her arm. She leans back, cat-like and relaxed, against the cold metal of the stove, and gollywogs up with a gasp. Underneath her apron she has only her startled skin, and where of late travelled the dear caress of hands, the polar knobs and flanges of Messrs. Chadband, Gage, and Murgatroyd, household appliances, have cast their iron. She rubs the chill out of her bottom, and recollection warms her like a sun lamp. Oh, I love my love, and well he knows. Only the words are borrowed, their meaning is her own. And hour after hour, subverting the fixed patterns of existence, the lipstick, the telephone, the cake, they brush the hidden tendrils of her thought, hoping for recognition. A moment of wheel in a discipline of custom. The fleet moment withers. She leaves the heliographic saucepan in the sink and goes, bare-ended and blushing, past the randy looks of framed Uncle Willie on the wall, to hoist the prescribed strips of gentility between herself and the general gaze.
Be nice from all directions with Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell's new cotton and latex rubber panty girdle smooths out those extra inches from the hips and gives you extra easy tummy support with its dip-down crossover panels of one-way stretch elastic. Not a seam to shift or poke you, and plenty of cool, constant airflow, too. Comes in dainty white or petal pink and washes in a jiffy. Thousands of young women of any age are taking to our airy-fairy light hip-swathed control with Tinkerbell.
She subtracts herself into her shrinkers. Rubber has won again. Her abdomen is shut from view or venture, and scarcely less her mind. Thus, then, arrayed in decency and dentifrice, Mr. and Mrs. Steele sit down to wedded breakfast, their lives as mutedly in order as their menu.
We sip the packaged juice of oranges, which provide vitamin C.
From groves we have neither seen nor imagined.
From glasses we could not fashion for ourselves.
I love the ground whereon he goes.
Far from the unvisited fields, we pour out cereal.
Out of a box made by a laborer we do not think to pity. The purest eyes and the neatest hands. Into bowls no crafty-fingered potter ever touched.
Bacon and eggs have been ordained by history.
If you no more on earth I see.
And the bread has been baked and sliced elsewhere.
Beyond the tap, our source of water is unknown.
Her lips are something wondrous fair.
We sip well-made coffee from underpaid Brazil.
The cow which gives our cream is a mythical beast.
I can't serve you as you have me.
As mythical as dead Pasteur, who guards our health.
The sugar comes in anonymous paper sacks.
Black is the color of my true love's hair.
And breakfast ends nowadays with no grace said.
We are the consumers. We do not create.
Yet there is kindness in us. We appeal to life with the still, small voice of marriage. We are set apart from the common processes of growth and change. But we have made league with one another for weal or woe. They do not choose. They are used by propriety, advertisements, and law. They have no fortress sure save what they build in the charmed circle of each other's arms, and that for a time is enough. Breakfast done, they stack dishes, pack lunch, don sandals and other casual fashions, and amble out to take the recommended dosage of fresh but rented air. Arm in elbow they go down the beach path together, two immortal and affectionate souls, suitably insured, whose house is built on the shifting sand of their good but perdurable love. And when it crumbles, which of them will recall its lighted windows beckoning them home out of the lonely dark? The dancing over, who will remember the steps? Here, on the beach, where Pycroft mottles the white dome of his waist and dreams of
spit and polish, but not too much of the latter.
Here, on the skin-hued shore, where the Reverend Treadwell despairs of heaven for the almost nude.
Whose hell is paved with very rude intentions.
Here, on the granulated earth, where the hostile and the indifferent grow unanimous blisters, love also mingles. The fond in ones and twos, the linked and the wishful, the limp and the lion-limbed, they spread their special charities on the sand and burn with sex and sunshine. Love is here, and there, and there. But love is various. You will find
Sir Percival English, who loves his dog and pets his wife.
who goes to bed in gardening gloves and a blindfold.
Sailor Jack, with a port in every girl.
And Limerick Lucy, she'll come to a dirty end, mark my words. Hyacinth-scented Alistair, and his great friend Geoffrey, embroidering crossed hearts on a doily.
Madam Excelsior, who longs for a fellow with a strange device in iambic couplets.
Sergeant Griswold, with yours always tattooed in a very peculiar place.
Miss Ophelia Trench, the sweetheart of Phi Upsilon Kappa, and her elegant beau,
Galahad Woodcock III, who never forgets to say please or thank you.
All these and more stalk down the unique avenues of need or affection. Among them, over beyond the ice cream stall and the water wings $1 an hour, past the jetty and the trip round the bay twice daily, half price under 10 but prove it, a whiskey distance from the fizzy drinks and the soda-throated young, here apart at the doldrum end of a dune, exclusively aloof in the shadow of their noble forebears and an orange golf umbrella. Here, reclined on foam rubber and legacies, Mr. and Mrs. J.P. de Montfort Mercedes cook their thin blue blood under the proletarian sun. How's the time, Jape?
Time for another martini. God bless the inventor of the thermos flask. Has it ever struck you what a fortunate age we live in? Here, pass your glass.
Not particularly. There's a lot to be said for the past. Thanks.
Ah, yes, the good old days. Open sewers and chastity belts. No, thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Mind you, the droit de seigneur had its points, but I'd forgo that any day in favor of the spring mattress.
Not to mention martinis after breakfast. I suppose, as always, you're right.
Do I detect a note of irony?
Well, I was just thinking of the time you swore up and down that misled was pronounced mizzled.
My dear girl, what you don't seem to realize is that the verb to mizzle is a very valuable addition to the language. If it doesn't exist, it's necessary to invent it.
Oh, Humpty, I adore you when you're pompous. Will you always, please, be very dumpty, just for me?
Baggage, you're impossible. I do believe you'd charm the pants off a Puritan, if you put your mind to it. Such as it is.
Such as it is, thank you very much. It boggles.
Ugh, what a thought.
All knobbly knees and gristle, like old celery.
Yes?
Cromwell was fat, pedant. Well, anyway, I've no wish to make a survey. Isn't it funny, though, how anonymous people become when they take their clothes off?
Depends what they take them off for.
Oh, really, Jake, don't you ever think of anything else? No, I mean, people seem to fit their clothes rather than vice versa. You only have to take one look at the average company director in a grey flannel suit and rimless glasses, and you've got him, a Himmler with grey flannel brains. But strip him down to his shorts, and he might be anyone. That's what's so nice about a beach. You can leave yourself behind.
In other words, a woman with a past should enter a nudist colony. May I join you?
I don't think you'd find it very exciting, my dear. The human body is a pretty sad sack of guts in the mass, present company accepted. Look at that woman over there, for instance.
Mrs. McAndrew passes in a trance of nougat.
She must be 50 if she's an inch. Will you still love me if I get fat?
Provided you turn the lights off. But not that fat, darling.
Have another drink. It's only 200 calories.
Tempt her. Oh, all right. Nothing like getting sloshed before lunch, but you'll probably have to put me to bed. Well, that's one way of working it off. My second wife used to play a loopy sort of solo tennis against the side of the garage in pyjamas and high heels. Quite entertaining till the novelty wore off, but it developed all the wrong muscles. So I sent her back to the factory with one box top unused and retired to a life in the country. End of chapter 7, continued in our next.
Moral? Beware of girls with Wimbledon leg. Was she pretty?
As a matter of fact, yes. I loved her desperately for at least 6 weeks. Rather good going for a woman who looked at married life as a form of healthy exercise. Sounds absolutely horrid. She probably thought it was, too.
Who knows?
Not that it matters.
Any baggage?
Oh, Jake, don't be a villain. Every time you look at me like that, you know darn well it simply makes me melt all over. It's not fair, it really isn't.
Poor little kitten, all undressed and nowhere to go.
Of course, 'tis a bit public, and the plebs has a very proper mind, bless it. We could go back to the house. Here we go again. Okay, finish my drink, will you?
Gladly. Better a wife besotted with love than liquor any day. Or night. Right? Right.
They banter up and down the scale of their talk, and gather up their longings and depart. For whom their brittle chain of love, forged in the smithy appetite, is still fetter and leash. And still their mating walks, new-minted, its glad open roads of flesh, that mirror landscape of desire which apes the rough highways of the heart, but fast winks out into the dark solitudes it can never wholly veil. Their love is thus, true in its time and binding. But these whom God hath joined together in the tabernacle of the 17th Enlightenment and in the person of the Reverend Minnie Perkins will one day be put asunder by detectives with sweaty nostrils and perjury. And neither will mind very much or even at all, for all good flings at the hour of satisfaction come to an end. But some there are in whom love endures, abrading the heart like an ancient shrapnel in the flesh, the vulnerable on whose threshold pain lies and cries, the orphan of their want, the needy for whom the need is greater than its object, the legendary few with whom joy abides, the deprived whose transfigured memories outshine all new and Spanish castles, and, with their differing love, the saints. With all of these, love does not dwindle, and their hearts shake forever under its terrible regard. Mr. Popescu, old in that bondage, veneered with pleasantry, edges forward through the tundra of his 40-year grief, eyes fixed unswervingly upon his chosen anesthetic path, and holds himself carefully, as a man will knifed in the abdomen, too proud to fall. He trudges down the dry Sahara sands, and outside the shell of his despair, from the outer longitudes of life, he hears a small voice reach into his wound, and the blade turns in his bowels.
Mr. Popescu, do you know something? I wish you could be young again, too.
Do you, Charlie?
Says Mr. Popescu. And there, in the open day, forever haunted, he communes with the wraith of his never-vanished love.
Earth, let your touch on her be such as lovers use, quietly where she lies, and care for her. She has no other arm but yours to warm her in the night wherein she lies. Time, in your nested hand she rests, who was my love. Be gentle where she sleeps. There in your long night, among your blind dreams, be kind to one who lies alone and sleeps. O love, be vigilant and bridge both time and earth, remembering her heart. Outsing the fierce years and pierce the flinted ground of winter, covering my love's heart.
The grave which is your heart, my patient love, is my enduring part, my love. And oh, my love, your ember memory alone is left to me dressed in your lonely gown of love. But oh my love, oh put away the past, enter and share the last and silent town of our two lingering love.
Death, let your curt embrace not hurt my dear, for how can she free to die in me her breath singing? O death, be tender. She has no friend but you, until I too die.
Mr. Popescu, did I say something wrong?
No, Charlie. No. You were right. I wish I could be young again, too, says Mr. Popescu. He presses shut the chapped lips of his sorrow, unsalved by time, and potters off on stiff ankles out of the smarting wind of love. And one day, near enough, around the jagged corner of a winter dawn, he will die, and Mrs. Popescu will have ceased her song. Love ends too soon for some, but others wear it like a scar all the way to the grave. For such, it is always possible to mourn, even here on a beach at the heat of holiday noon. Others rejoice in the high summer of illusion. Between them, the more or less fervid explore the communicable fringes of their hearts. All vary, and none can ever be wholly alone, nor ever wholly joined. But midday stirs in the common abdomen. Hunger comes, unhorsing the shy from his mitty conquests. It halts the advances of the bold. It marches brazenly between the interlocked eyes of lifeguard and beauty, and everywhere among them it prevails. Also among the married, for consumption of food delivers them from the consumption of time, as where, for a muscular instance, Uncle Alice marches Aunt Henry
Lift right.
back to his apothecary's menu of vitamin pills and yogurt.
With 2 salt tablets because of perspiration.
The Bodkins munch a picnic snack of ham and cucumber.
And calculus. And the altogether. He chews a gritty isosceles sandwich, sweetening his tea with cube roots. And Mrs. B coyly strip teases a banana.
The Glubbs, too, that semi-detached pair, Walter J. and wife, partake of a genteel repast, side by proprietary side, on a plastic cloth and second-best behavior.
She helps him to a dainty portion of manufacturer's meat pie, immunized behind cellophane,
And entirely tasteless, like wool.
which he gulps with doggy gratitude and wipes his paws on a paper serviette. And yes, he'll take his beverage now.
Look, dear, grape soda.
14 fluid ounces of purple burp, and nobody brought a cork. Hunger comes to the wedded and the wanton alike, to the lovers and those who permit themselves to be loved, but some refuse, to the parted and the paired, and to the impaired also, to Rosie Doyle,
Who wakes with a start from an unbuttoned dream of a chorus girl in a waistcoat. He taps Miss Toplady on the peaches and cream and announces lunch.
Yes, let's. I'm famished.
Good, so am I. Ready?
Whenever you are, love.
They stalwart off to a welterweight round of goose and gravy.
With a wishbone for bachelors.
and the intervening wood, which can neither condemn nor praise, embraces them in its charitable shade. The shade creeps eastward from the tilting sun. Time passes and mealtime ends, reviving protein in the pulse and restoring to each other again the well-fed. The lethargic doze on deck chairs.
Miss Ogilvy and Mr. Gooch, her lifebuoy Swain, drift limply on pneumatic mattresses 20 yards from shore. The hearty play games or go for smug walks. And out in the bay,
Dapper as dewdrops, Lieutenant Commander Schlesinger, Royal Canadian Navy, feels in his country club launch a lurching swell gather under his lunch, greasing his gut with a shameful, unprofessional sickness. He vomits neatly into his yachting cap, rinses it in 40 feet of wash tub,
to the vast relish of a passing trout.
puts it back on his head, and he hunkers back on his stool, empty but unperturbed, and longs for 4 ounces of dry land with vermouth.
While Mrs. Lulu Bandix, who is not yet his mistress, watches from the bows with mingled affection and distaste. She finds herself unwillingly drawn to this cold, rigid man, stitched up tight in his discipline, this stranger who pursues not with pleas but with silence. She wants to rumple his crew cut and bite his ear or jitterbug on the dock with the jolly sailors or anything to thaw the frost on his upper deck reserve.
But what can you do? He won't even unbend when he's sick. For long ago, in the fleet years of boyhood, the man within was put in irons, and all his mutinous ranks of joy or pain serve out life sentences in the dark hold of reticence. He has court-martialed his heart. They survive within, these disabled seamen of passion, their guns spiked, their flotillas rudderless. They haunt his sleep with their shackled hands held out, their castaway eyes pleading, but they're denied. Lieutenant Commander Schlesinger is a model officer. He quells his need of mother or any other love and communicates through flags.
The bare but necessary words will never be said. She will never be able to give herself to him because he is not able to receive. And the sure stanchion of his strength and honor, which is her need of him, will be neither given nor shared. All that is left is a mere messroom story, a clipped and sterile rut in a drab hotel where much love might have been. And he will bear away impassive his scarred soul back to the charts of safety, the navigable shallows, and she will have, for a memento, a drowned possibility and a collar stud. The afternoon ages and decays. Alone lively, the optimistic young dive from rafts like grape shot and frisk between the possum-peopled rugs and spur canoes across the redskin tide and volley quoits over very collapsible nets or beach balls bright as lollipops and limp as old buttocks. The girls have begun to discover their private power, and the boys have begun to grow into theirs, and they meet for a craving month, and romance runs among them like a mumps.
She's beautiful. Just like in the posters. Come on, I'll teach you how to tango. Have you ever had a swim by moonlight? If you want to park for a while, I don't mind. Let's get engaged, be engaged. Promise you'll write?
These are the respectable young, to whom their puppy vows, eternal while they last, are more binding by far than any wedding of elders, and somebody else's steady is infinitely taboo. They possess each other strictly, as not too long ago they hoarded trains and dolls, and leave to a later, lighter age the frolic attitudes. For they have not yet discovered that love cannot abolish self. But here in the public sunshine, their solemn treaties hide, filed away for more glamorous reference, and being still, after all, only children, they cavort in crowds and consume the afternoon with sports. Thus, with young and old, with gay or torpid, the day recedes. And, as it ebbs, evacuation starts. Families leave, and friends and acquaintances, communal as a club. And the friendless follow, excluded, to roam the hungering town. And few remain. The beach, for a grave while, is almost empty, becalmed timeless, mute, meet again for birds. Then, quite suddenly, evening arrives with a zoot suit and a leer. The pool room boys emerge from their holes and cobra down the promenade, hissing invitations. The fancy girls with technicolor lips mince past the petting cinemas, and both converge, like-minded, on the sand.
Hi, gorgeous. Want to see my tattoos? Who are you kidding? Tattoos my ass. Sounds like a pretty fair swap.
The quick rituals of pickup are performed, quick as a greasy wink. The twos deploy, the shadowed dunes receive, and the whole heaped coast becomes one smacking, barrier-cracking notch of rump and revel. These are the unrespectable young. But who here on the smudged shore of dusk, where the tupping tandems gasp, who with his stone heart shall cast the first judgment? The Reverend Treadwell? The Parent Teachers Association? The press? Yes, all of them, given half a Grundy chance. But the world of things, this beach, that wind, those waters, is and becomes and decays and changes and endures, aloof and indifferent to sinners or to spoilsports alike, and survives them both. Wherein, for all his brevity, man is a spirit, and the human soul, that hardy phoenix, is lodged no less behind the street corner eyes of lout or trollop than in the parlour heart of Homo suburbanus. Each after his kind seeks for home, reaching out to some hearth of mind or flesh responsive, each after his need. So here, for a mingling hour, the soiled youngsters lock, and the unrebuking twilight draws its veil. Inland a little, where the sand gives place to a thin sandy earth, the shacks and cabins and luxury cottages huddle against the nearing night. Long risen, a lover's moon rides in a pale, diminished sky, and underneath, among the trees, it is almost dark. Here, along the lanes, slowly goes Hubert Gooch, wandering, disconsolate with love, romantically sad.
Up and down, back and forth, he courses Miss Ogilvy, inaccessible within doors. His heart beckons him on, but shyness hobbles his steps. Absently, he twists a leaf off a shrub and crushes it in his hand. Oh, Eleanor, Eleanor, if you only knew. Then, abruptly, turning into her lane for the 14th irresolute time, he hears a muffled cry in the one and only listened-for voice, immediate, real. He goes quickly to her gate, checks there a moment, tense as a pointer, and catches, following upon silence, beyond the black socket of her door, the torn edge of weeping. His fears depart. Defeated by concern, he runs up the path, stands framed in the doorway looking in, then enters gently where, alone and bowed, she sits and grieves, half naked at the kitchen table. Eleanor!
Oh, Hubert.
She stumbles to him, and her arms go round the proud protection of his shielding comfort. He holds her close, tenderly, and calms and soothes. Darling, don't cry. There. Oh, there.
I'm sorry, Hubert. Have you got a handkerchief?
Sure. Here.
Thanks. Oh, Hubert, I'm so glad you came.
Well, so am I, darling.
But what's it all about? Do you want to tell me, or would you rather not?
Oh, it was horrible. You see that little boy, Charlie Minnow, I was telling you about?
He leads her to a
Supposed to come
couch
here and have a
lays
sort
her
of camp
down
supper out
and
in the
holds
old
her close
bonfire.
again.
I
And the tale is
just thought
told.
it'd be a bit of fun for
And in its telling, Hubert becomes a man, full grown in another's need of him.
He listens deftly and understands, and sympathy flows out from his enfolding arms, and the ache in her is quenched and smoothed away. Then there is quiet, and they lie for half an hour or more, untroubled in the warm, embracing dark.
And then, as though by a common mute consent, he kisses her. Lips answer, and hands draw down, fondly clasped at head and shoulder, entwining heart and hope. Captive and king, he caresses her, softly, reverently, further and further, and all the sweetness of the world is in that touch, and her body sings, and the gladness is like a light, and there are no words at all. And carefully, swiftly, he unzips his joy, and then the deep well claims him. He is engulfed in love.
In that implosive instant, how should he know?
We have heard The Birth of the Lord, La Nativité du Seigneur, music of Olivier Messiaen, performed by the composer on the grand organ of the Church of the Trinity. You're listening to Just Music, this morning presenting 20th century French organ music on Riverside Radio WRVR, 106.7 FM, public radio in New York City. The time is exactly 11:30.
This is Julius Rudel. In these days of ever-increasing dribble on the public airwaves, I'm pleased to salute WRVR, one of the very select and small number of radio stations fighting the uphill battle against inanity in 4 interesting programs of and about music and the arts. Happy 10th anniversary.
We return now to music of Jehan Alain, the French composer who died in the Second World War at the age of 29. We hear his 3 dances for organ: Joy, Grief, the funeral dance in honor of a heroic memory, his sister, and the third entitled Struggles. The 3 dances are performed by Marie-Pierre Alain, the composer's sister.